Namaste. Hello and a warm welcome. Welcome to Akankssha's YouTube channel Multidimensional Soul and this audiobooks and talk series dedicated to Akankssha's son and spirit guide Arnav. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, do subscribe, like and share this knowledge and wisdom. Do share your experiences in the comments. What resonates with you the most? What insights do you receive from these teachings? Let's keep this energy of knowledge and wisdom flowing as the energy loves to move, and this is an energy exchange. Is God a dictator? By Paramahansa Yogananda. The question that is today's subject has perhaps never before been the topic of a spiritual lecture. I ask God all kinds of questions, He is never dismayed. And no matter what the question is, the Divine Being always gives me the most wonderful answer. You, too, can speak openly to God. If you will remember that you will find great satisfaction in the understanding you will receive from Him about the anomalies of life that have mystified you. Man came on earth uniquely endowed with individuality and free will. He was put here to evolve his intelligence, and thereby rediscover and express his true nature, the soul, a reflection of spirit. He was to gradually develop his innate intelligence, not merely through books or lectures and sermons, but also through his own efforts to exercise his mind and improve the quality of his thoughts and actions. The Bible tells us that we are made in the image of God. But that image is certainly not apparent in all men. Though the light of God is in all equally, we cannot deny that it is more manifest in some than in others. If the light of God were fully manifest in all people, then human beings would remain constantly in their native state of perfection. But we see that in most people there is room for improvement. They have yet to evolve to a higher level of intelligence. The flexibility of human life shows that there is a divine power lodged in all. That some show greater development than their fellow beings simply indicates that they have made more effort. You may ask, well, if divine intelligence is in all, why are some people born morons? To answer that fully, we would have to look into their past incarnations for those unwise actions that brought about this sad result. But there is no question that every man is made in the image of omniscient God. And if the hopeless condition in the brain of a moron were corrected, his soul would be able to manifest more of its native intelligence. The history of leadership. Looking back through history, we see that as some individuals developed more intelligence than others, they stood out from the crowd and became leaders. Their leadership was gained and secured through demonstration of physical prowess. The strongest and cleverest of the tribe became the leader. In this way different clans developed. Gradually, to become stronger in order to accomplish common purposes, several clans united under one leader. Those leaders became kings, elected according to their demonstration of physical power and intelligence. But some of them abused their position and became tyrants. They further established that their descendants were to be the successors to the crown. The right to rule by virtue of birth, rather than capacity, vitiated this form of leadership. The evil crept in because even if the kingly offspring was physically, mentally, or otherwise unqualified, he nevertheless inherited, and usually insisted on exercising, the right to rule. In some cases, incompetent heirs were manipulated by scheming ministers in their service. So, we see that the system based on inheritance was defective. Some nations eventually became weary of this kind of tyranny and rebelled against their rulers. Many kings were slain, and others dethroned. Then came the idea of a republic. Countries such as France and America chose to have presidents elected by the people. George Washington qualified himself for this position by all he did to help bring freedom to this land. He loved this country and had its highest interest at heart. He was a real president. Under his able leadership, this great land took its first important steps as a new nation. Lincoln, too, was an exceptional leader. But what crept in to obstruct the perfect ideal of government of the people, by the people, and for the people? Though presidents are elected by the citizens' vote, the system is flawed by graft and other inequities. Often, the best talker gets elected. We all know how people love to eulogize their own good qualities. Such a person can also talk against others for hours and never think of the time, but he will not talk about his own faults and doesn't like to be reminded of them. Those who feel qualified to castigate others for their failings should be willing to stand up and confess their own shortcomings, too. But politicians know they won't get elected that way. So sometimes they get the vote simply because of their shrewdness in putting themselves over through their speeches. Then, after they get to the top, they do just as they please, in spite of all their promises to the people. Voters don't really know a candidate. Usually, they are not in a position to make a personal judgment of his character. They know only what they read or hear about him. If he is said to be capable and a nice person, they feel inclined to vote for him. But where is the ground for judgment? Where is the standard of truth with which to measure each politician? None has been established. Thus the masses too often are swayed by propaganda and sentiment, without really knowing what is going on. Even an unworthy candidate can get votes if he has the money for a good publicity program. But it is wrong to advertise how good he is if he hasn't the qualities to back it up. The system of voting for candidates is spoiled when money, rather than merit, can make the difference in getting someone elected president, and politicians, unfortunately, have a reputation for seeking out the moneyed people for help. Worthy candidates without such contacts may remain too little known to attract the voters. Of course, to be wealthy is not necessarily to be involved in influencing elections. I have always admired Henry Ford because he has done much good with his money for worthwhile causes in this country, and throughout the world as well. Proven merit through good works should be one of the criteria for the election of leaders. To a large degree, voters are dependent on, and hence controlled by, what is printed in the newspapers, but I think people are getting away from that kind of influence. It used to be a common attitude in India that if someone said, "I read it in the paper," people automatically took it for granted that it must be false. Newspapers are often biased, and this makes people skeptical. Truth and sympathetic justice, not expediency and exploitation, will restore integrity to news reporting and re-establish people's faith. So, we find that though democracy is the best ideal, the present system of voting is extremely inefficient because the decision too often has to be made on what the candidate says about himself or against others who are running on the ticket. Too little attention is paid to the real character of the candidates. If only saints and others who are truly capable of analyzing character went to vote for our leaders, we would be assured of a good president in the White House. We would always have worthy ones to guide us. A truly great president is one who looks to the good of the nation first and includes in that the well-being of the whole world. So, because of the discrepancies in the voting system, we get some good presidents and some bad ones. Still, this democratic system is certainly far better than any other present-day alternatives. Inept kings and those who rule by force cannot be demoted without violence, but the people can lawfully replace presidents who prove unworthy. Now we come to the modern age form of dictatorship. Dictators are a classic example of politicians who make promises and then break them after they get in office. Dictators usually start out with the desire to help their people, but while they may be loyal to their own country, their self-interest makes them very disloyal to all other nations. Through jealousy and overzealousness, they bring trouble to the whole world as they rise to power. When they get to the top, they begin to rule by force to prevent anyone else from taking their position. Right or wrong, their word is law. This is the flaw of dictatorships. In the beginning, the dictator gains power by doing some good for his people. He stirs their faith in him, because he rules by merit. But when he gets to the top, he rules by force. In one sense, God is a dictator. Now comes the question, is God a dictator? Certainly not in the context we have just discussed, but in one sense he is, because he created us against our will. Isn't this true? We did not ask to be created. Who told him to create us? That is the one question God does not answer. I often tell him he had no business to create us and put us in a body so susceptible to disease and suffering. Even a car has parts that can be easily replaced from time to time, but not this human machine. You have a right to say to God, "Lord, since you created me, redeem me." This is the way you should pray to him. You are his responsibility. The pattern of creation is set by God. Why did God create women, men, and animals, and identify the soul with the particular limitations of consciousness peculiar to the form in which it is encased. It is in this sense that God is a dictator. Animals have no chance to improve themselves, they remain just as they are, bound by instinct. And human beings take advantage of the poor creatures. We don't wear shoes made of human skin because humans would resist that idea. But we feel free to take the flesh and skins of animals because in the God-created order of the world they cannot defend themselves against man. I say that in these ways God is a dictator. But just the same, He is responsible for us, because we are thrust into this world without being asked if we want to come, and without being told why we are here. Yet we can see that His purpose must be good. This whole creation shows that it is the work of some great intelligence. There are the senses through which we perceive and relate to this world. There is food to satisfy our hunger, and we have been given the ability to look after this body and fill its other needs. Each life form follows a more or less set pattern. The average life of man is less than 100 years, the redwood tree lives up to 4,000 years. After a relatively short time, the ordinary house plant dies, no matter how carefully you look after it. Some insects live only a few hours. All this shows that there is a dictator who has ordered things as they should be. He has set the standards by which all living things are governed. Spiritual dictatorship. Now the difference between the leadership of Joseph Stalin and Mahatma Gandhi is an important one. They both rule millions of people, but Gandhi is a spiritual dictator. He leads through love, not force, and people follow him out of love, not fear. Similarly, I think God can be said to be a spiritual dictator. If He were to come on earth in human form with all His wondrous qualities unmasked, which He could very well do, everyone would follow Him without question. He does come, but in the guise of His avatars, in whom He keeps His powers partially hidden so that He might play a specific human role for the good of man. Thus God was born as Jesus, who let Himself be crucified even though He could have destroyed the world with a glance. He who could raise the dead could certainly have annihilated His enemies by the command of spirit within Him. The followers of Jesus expected Him to be an emperor of this world. But instead, He wore a crown of thorns, and by so doing He became a real emperor, ruling the hearts of millions through the ages. Where are Napoleon and Genghis Khan today? They are mere chapters in history books. But in every nation there are those who love and follow Jesus. The life of Jesus shows that God is not like the ordinary dictator. He is almighty, yet He does not use His power to destroy His enemies. You can curse God, deny Him, and call Him all the evil names you want. He will never punish you for those insults. But because you have filled your mind with evil thoughts, you won't be at peace with yourself. God refuses to dictate to His children. God has created this universe to run according to law. If we break one of the cosmic principles, we punish ourselves. Jump from the top floor of a high building, and your bones will be broken. You can't ignore the law of gravity without experiencing the consequences. So in this world man can act freely only within a limited scope. If he goes against divine laws he will punish or destroy himself. In the sense that God has established inexorable laws, He does seem to be a dictator. But the fact that He Himself remains absolutely silent, and calls us only through love, proves that He doesn't like that role. If God spoke to us directly, we would in that instant lose our free choice, because we would immediately feel impelled to obey Him. We couldn't resist His wise and loving influence. For the same reason, no saint has been permitted by God to exert spiritual force to change the world. Great saints have tremendous power. My master could raise the dead, but he never used his power to force the world to change. If people are shown miracles, they will be attracted by phenomena instead of being drawn to God out of the soul's spontaneous love for Him. So God does not allow any saint to draw souls to Him by the use of spiritual power in a way that imposes on the free choice of those souls. Down through the ages, in fiery speeches prophets have warned that God Himself will come out of the clouds to destroy the wicked. But God has never done that. When people are evil, when they break His divine laws, they set in motion the cosmic forces that produce the inevitable consequences of their wrong actions, thus, they punish themselves. I don't think God himself has ever come down to chastise anyone. If that were his way, he would be punishing wrongdoers right now, for he knows who is right and who is wrong in this terrible war that is going on. God is humble and has hidden himself. He doesn't want to come and say to mankind, I am God. You have to obey me. But he does try to keep us from harming ourselves by speaking to us through his laws and through great souls. Christ said, He that is least among you all, the same shall be great. He who is truly humble in the eyes of God is like God himself. Man should be taught universal patriotism. Through the misuse of our freedom, we have made our earth what it is. Once we understand this, we have the explanation of everything that takes place here. There is always plenty of money for war, but there is never enough to rid the world of slums. Do you see the false reasoning? If all world leaders were educated to be like Gandhi, or Lincoln, or Christ, there would be no more wars. For this reason, I submit that an important advancement toward peace would be the creation of world cities where orphans of all nations could be taken and raised together. They should be given not only academic education, but also the highest education in cultivating soul qualities and spreading by example the brotherhood of man. National patriotism based on selfishness has been the cause of many disasters and untold suffering all over the earth. Therefore, we must teach, along with patriotism, the brotherhood of man. When the seeds of brotherly love take root in the hearts of people, wars will cease. Consider how much discrimination there is in the world. We have an example in America's citizenship laws. People from European countries can become citizens, even though they sometimes turn out to be gangsters, but souls like Mahatma Gandhi and other great men could not become citizens because they happen to come from disbarred nations. I never feel self-conscious about such laws. Wherever God places me, that is my country. And in loving that nation I include the whole world. This is the ideal to be taught to all. Some worthwhile ideas from Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon wrote a perceptive treatise that gives us stimulating food for thought. He tells of a party of voyagers who had been blown off course by strong winds and found themselves in a new and unfamiliar region. They came to a wonderful island on which was cradled a beautiful city. An official, wearing silken robes of azure, blue, came out to the ship and invited the lost travelers to stay for a time with their people. The city was a scientific utopia. Marvelous discoveries and inventions were disseminated to the citizens from a place called Solomon's House, whose members consisted of exceptionally learned men, the shooting stars of the arts and sciences. All were of noble and scientific mind, interested in truth alone. The foremost purpose of their research was to reveal for the benefit of man the wonders immanent in God's creation. The progress and well-being of this utopia were thus dependent on and guided by the finest people of the community. India, in its golden age, went even deeper than this, holding to the ideal that leaders of the people should be not only scientists, but saints, because scientists without spiritual realization can be blind to the true highest good of the people. In those ancient times in India, wise saints advised the ruling kings. Leaders of men should be guided by great souls. The earth's problems would then be solved, because saints who love God look to the good of all and would not institute in any country unjust laws that would foment troubles. Great saints look upon the whole world as their kingdom. Therefore, the saints have always advised kings to keep harmony not only in their own country, but to help promote it in other countries as well. This requires the broadness of spiritual patriotism, which opens the borderlines of nationality to embrace all. Gandhi has said that his India consists not only of Hindus, but whoever loves India and follows truth, no matter what his nationality or religion. And when we think of Lincoln, we think of another wise and understanding man. There may be more like him today. Many a flower is born to blush unseen. Man's worthiness and desire for trustworthy leadership must be there to encourage such noble souls, then gradually they will reveal themselves. To come back to the utopia of Francis Bacon's story, he had a royal imagination. The people of that land had an excellent practice. Representative scientists were sent at 12-year intervals to different countries all over the globe. Their mission was to learn the language and study the constructive laws, the newest discoveries, and the best customs of those nations. When they returned to their island, the highest of what they had learned was introduced into their own culture. Everyone lived in peace and harmony, willingly obeying the just laws of that land. We have to make a start somewhere. People have not been educated into this kind of unselfish thinking. That is why it is not possible yet to have a utopia on earth. True happiness for all can come only under the spiritual government of the soul. We have to make a start somewhere. In governments there should be a standard and exchange of highest wisdom. It is starting even now. In the government of India there are certain chairs for philosophers. But this is not enough. Ordinary exchange of trade between governments has created wars. Merchants of wisdom would bring such understanding between nations that all participating countries would learn how to exchange and share material commodities without fighting. This must come to pass. Don't think that the world is going backwards. We will gradually come to this state. The war will help to clean out politics. It will bring to light many of the causes of the ills of the world. Just think, in peacetime, anyone who bombs a house is put in prison. But in war, the person who destroys masses of homes gets a medal for it. What a wonderful concept. We must begin now to put into effect new concepts, spiritual ones. Don't minimize your own abilities, for the Almighty Father is within you. The minute you recognize that power within, you will be able to do great things. The ocean consists of drops of water. If the drops were taken away, there would be no ocean. And there would be no works of God in this world without us. Think in terms of the whole world when you think of what service you can render. You are made in the image of God and must not look upon yourself as a frail human being. Develop your love, that you can give it to your nation and to all nations of the world. God wants you to know that you are sent here to develop love for your world family. Incarnation after incarnation death takes you away, that you may not become too clannish and too identified with only one nationality and a few loved ones. Jesus showed us the way. He loved his mother dearly, but he loved all other people of the world too. It is God who animates all beings. Two boys were watching some potatoes boiling in a pot. One said, "Look, brother, the potatoes are jumping up and down." The wiser boy said, "But it is the fire that makes them jump." God is the fire that animates all beings. You think you are doing everything, you forget that it is God who is working through you. It is God who loves through you, it is His love alone that expresses through all forms of love on earth. Friendship is the purest love of all, in that love lies the potential to love the whole world, for true friendship is unconditional. Loving your family is just the first lesson in learning to love all mankind. The world has come to the state wherein it is essential that we be schooled not only in patriotism, but also in divine brotherhood. Jesus said, "Love thy neighbor as thyself." Every nation must love every other nation as its neighbor. A dictator wouldn't give us the right to throw him out. So, we may say that in creating us without our consent, God is a dictator. But on the other hand, He is not a dictator because He has given us complete freedom to throw Him out and never think of Him. That is why some good people who never even think of God seem to get along all right. If God were a dictator, He would say, "Oh, there is that man. I will fix him so that he will have to think of me." But God doesn't do that. You will not suffer so long as you follow His laws, even though you have totally forgotten Him. It is only when you break His laws that you punish yourself with suffering. But God's laws are subtle, it is difficult to avoid breaking them without seeking His help. So, even though God has all physical, mental, and spiritual power, He doesn't use it when we go against Him. You may curse God every day of the year, and He won't punish you for that. But love Him, and He will come to you. He is working through love to draw you back to Him. Though God has given us freedom, He also realizes that we are still very much hemmed in by our own self-imposed limitations. Therefore, He has given us intelligence through which we can get out of this mess. We have no one to blame but ourselves if we don't use that intelligence rightly. Even God can't help us if we break His laws and bring suffering upon ourselves. Some people go through life dull-minded, eating and sleeping, enjoying a few pleasures, very seldom thinking deeply. So many people don't really think. They have the consciousness that material life is everything. But this life is only a passing dream. So why should you live trying to please the world? Better to try to please God first, and then you will better be able to please all. God will eventually give freedom to everyone, but it won't come to you until you have used rightly your free choice. Otherwise, there would be no point in His having given us free will. Animals have no freedom. God bound them by instinct. But in man He has implanted wisdom. Human beings have the free choice to go up or down, to become better or worse. And since He has given us this freedom, He remains silent, because He knows if He talked to us, we would be totally influenced by Him. He would be able instantly to convince us against doing wrong. And if He did that, He would indeed be a dictator. So even though He is almighty, He can't do anything for us that will interfere with our free choice. Do you not see that? Therefore, because He keeps Himself out of our decisions, remaining quiet, hiding His power, He is not a dictator. He knows we are in trouble, but there is no way He can redeem us unless we cooperate with Him through our own effort. By our own free choice we alone decide whether to accept Him or cast Him aside. You are potentially equal to God. Another thing, ordinary dictators never want anyone else to be like them. They are inimical to each other because they want to be unique and supreme. But God is not like that. He made you in His image. You are potentially equal to God since you are a part of Him. Each one of us has the ability to become godly, if He would cast off the eclipse of ignorance. You don't have to acquire anything, you have it already. The gold of the soul is right there within you, covered with the mud of delusion. All you have to do is scrape off that mud. So, you see, on the one side God is a dictator because He created us against our will. But He is surely trying to rectify that by being a spiritual dictator. He speaks only through His laws and draws only with His love. But because He doesn't manifest Himself on earth and demand to be elected as the Almighty Ruler, He is not a dictator. The Lord isn't campaigning for election, except in the individual election of your heart. When your heart will sparkle with the light of your soul's love for Spirit, when that love will destroy all the psychological prisons that have held captive your free choice, then He will come without your asking. He will say, "Your love is so dazzling, so enticing, that I would like to come to you, if you will let me." So, God as a spiritual dictator will never use force, nor appear to the world and proclaim, "I am the Lord of the universe." It is only when your soul will call to God and your heart will melt with love for Him that you will know Him. End of talk. This talk, Is God a Dictator?, by Paramahansa Yogananda is featured in the book Journey to Self-Realization. This book is part of a series of anthologies of Paramahansa Yogananda's collected talks and essays. This talk was given in the Self-Realization Fellowship International Headquarters, Los Angeles, California, on April 20, 1941. Thank you for tuning in and soaking in all the knowledge and sharing it with others. Namaste.
This is a series of audiobooks and insightful lectures brought to you by Akanksshaa, dedicated to exploring timeless wisdom and spiritual teachings. Each recording is generated with love, honoring my journey and my connection with higher guidance, especially in tribute to my son Arnav, who now guides me from beyond. May these words awaken the divine love within you, bring you peace and inspiration on your own path, and may divine light within shine bright. May whatever merit arises from these readings be for the benefit of all sentient beings. Namaste.